Dennis O'Rourke.
Mr Speaker, New Zealand has developed a housing crisis since the National Government took office in 2008, has developed it since then. And it's been like the frog in the saucepan, waiting for the heat to increase without noticing it until the pot boils over. The crisis during that time has become chronic, and this government has done little or nothing about it. In fact, this government has had a worse record in meeting housing demand than any other government in living history. In the last 6 years, house prices have gone through the roof in Auckland, and nobody over there could deny it. They are now unaffordable to most home buyers, and very little has been done to help. We've had some action taken on KiwiSaver, access to that, at the price, though, of compromising retirement savings. And too many people don't have access to enough money in a KiwiSaver account to make any difference. The causes of the crisis have not been addressed. Few Kiwis have left for Australia, that's true, and that's led to an increase in demand, but so has relatively uncontrolled immigration. 56,000 in the last year, and that has had a very significant increase in demand for housing, and the government's done nothing at all about that. 11%, according to the Bank of New Zealand, 11% of homes are sold to foreign buyers in Auckland, 11%, and the government has done virtually nothing about that. Even this government can't deny the problem now. It is belatedly bolstering tax rules on residential property, something that should have been done years and years ago. And there is no need at all for a capital gains tax if income tax is broad enough, and no action has been taken on that either. The government is not doing enough about foreign buyers. Requiring New Zealand and overseas tax numbers isn't nearly enough. Determined overseas buyers won't be deterred by that at all. And the bright line test for all buyers selling within 2 years is much too easily avoided and will have little effect. 2 years is too short. While special housing areas and accords with councils will help, the real issue has been the government's unwillingness to invest directly in housing itself. New Zealand First policy is for the government to buy and develop land for housing and to use existing Crown land for the same purpose, and for the government to sell directly smaller sections, making modest homes more available to more people, with easy repayment over 25 years at a low interest rate. Now, the government has taken a leaf out of New Zealand First's book with its use of Crown land, but only 400 hectares of it, a very small portion, only 400 hectares, and only as a last-minute effort in the budget to try and look a little bit better. Very cosmetic, and even that land is ill-defined. We don't really know exactly what land the government's got in mind, and not all of it, of course, will be suitable. Only $52 million has been allowed for in the budget to develop that land, and that seems very light. There is also very little information about how all that will work. The government should take another leaf out of New Zealand First policy, which requires a permanent special agency to buy and develop land for residential housing. The government has had an even worse record, Mr Speaker, on social housing. Average rental is now $379 a week. Since 2008, the increase under National is $65 a week, or 20%, and 11.7% above CPI. That's huge. People can't avoid that. In Auckland, people typically have to pay 50% of their take-home income in rent, and that's crippling. In Christchurch, people often have to pay something like $1,000 a week or more for an ordinary 3-bedroomed house. It's a very significant problem in the major cities. And the government's social housing measures won't help to increase rental housing stock. Those measures are designed to minimise the role of the state and to emasculate Housing New Zealand. This government is actually abdicating its responsibility for social housing by contracting it out to non-government organisations and private providers. They say there will be flexible purchasing, as described in the government's recent legislation, allowing what they call tailored agreements, dictated in detail by ministers, who will be biased, of course. And that is to try to give certainty to providers so that they can go out and borrow money and build homes. But are they really capable of doing this job? We really don't know until it happens, until the worst happens, perhaps. But Housing New Zealand, of course, could do all that and used to do all that much faster and much better. So what is the point of this exercise in farming it out to non-government organisations? Mr. Speaker, the whole thrust of the government's housing program is to suppress demand for state rentals, to do little for first home buyers, and simply does not adequately address the housing crisis at all.